What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Cjthecheesedj here, and we are back with a brand new top 10 for you guys today. And today we're taking a look at top 10 creatures slash dinos slash thingy-majiggies that you should bring to orbital supply drops to complete them. So guys, this is going to pretty much cover a bunch of creatures on the list that you should bring to finish orbital supply drops. So guys, without further ado, let's jump straight into the list. Alrighty guys, so coming in at number 10, we have the Snowout. Now, the Snowout is great for soloing blue leveled orbital supply drops as well as the higher tiered ones. However, I mean, not soloing the higher tiered ones. You definitely do not want to try soloing the higher tiered ones with a Snowout. But this guy is useful to bring along to the higher tiered supply drops because of his freezing ability. Now, this is also why he's really good at soloing the lower tiered ones, because he can practically heal himself when he needs to, as well as freeze the enemy dinos around him, which allows him to pretty much take a breather and the orbital supply drop to take a breather from that direction anyway. But these guys are really useful. Their melee damage is semi-decent. It's obviously not the best, but it does deal the damage, and it is possible to solo the blue supply drops with these guys, because all you'll be facing is Dillos, Trikes, and Stegos, and that is easily killable with a Snowout. So guys, let's move on to number 9. Now guys, coming in at number 9, we have none other than the Managua. The Managua is great for doing orbital supply drops and even like the higher tiered ones, mainly because of his breath attack as well as his melee damage. So his breath attack has the ability to freeze dinos in the air as well as deal damage to them. Now, the closer you are to them, the more damage you will deal. Now, this is obviously really effective for taking out flyers, such as the Pteranodons. Even the Wyverns. It is possible to take out the Wyverns with a real high-level Managua that has melee damage and stamina buffed up. But even so, even without Ice Breath, these guys are really great for dealing just plain old damage, because you can see here, they're able to hit pretty damn hard. Now, as well as that, these guys are able to get around really quickly and really effectively, also enabling them to strike from multiple angles of the supply drop. So you definitely want to try and bring a couple of Managuas to the supply drop, especially the lower tiered ones such as the blue and the yellows, because these guys could easily solo those ones by themselves. Obviously, if you bring Trimates, it is going to make things easier, but it is possible to solo them with just a Managua, unless of course their breath attack does seem to glitch out. Now guys, coming in at number 8, we have the Therizinosaurus. The Therizinosaur, sorry. So this guy is an absolute beast when it comes to dealing with corrupted dinos. He's obviously able to effectively deal tons of damage to them, obviously because he's just a really high tier dino. As well as that, he can also take the reduced fire damage from Wyverns and anything that breathes sort of fire, which makes them great for taking out the higher tiered ones such as the red and the purples, because Wyverns flock to that like goddamn crazy. So they're real effective when it comes to taking on those ones. Now, as well as that, they do have a decent health pool, as well as decent melee damage and weight, so it is possible to solo the blue and yellow drops with a single Therizino if you're brave enough to do the yellow one by yourself. And as well as that, he is really effective in the red and purples because of his fire damage, not immunity, but reduction, damage reduction, which makes him really detrimental in order to take on those supply drops. Only downside to this is that he obviously cannot hit flyers that well unless they come down to land or they're grounded by something else. But if they do get grounded, then the Theri will absolutely tear them apart. He's got really good attack rate, and he's just a solid all-around great mount. So guys, that's why the Therizino comes in at number 8 on the list. Let's move on to number 7. So guys, coming in at number 7, we have the Yutyrannus. This guy is hands down amazing for supply drops, mainly because of his roars. Now, he has two roars, the Courage Roar and the, I guess the Scary Roar you could call it. And both these roars are really detrimental to completing orbital supply drops in my opinion. The Courage Roar obviously allows you to buff fellow dinosaurs in the area with a 25% damage reduction, as well as a 25% damage increase, and you can then actually debuff enemy creatures in the area with the Scare Roar, and that will cause them to take even more damage. This is really effective for the higher tiered supply drops because you will be needing as much damage coming out of your dinos, as well as your dinos taking as much reduced damage as possible. So these guys are really great for all of that, as well as that they can hold their own in battle. They hit, in my opinion, just as hard as a Rex. Their health pool is obviously on the lacking side of it, but they still have a relatively large health pool to go off. and I would definitely recommend bringing them to supply drops, especially the higher tiered ones, because their roars will change the course of the battle for you. So guys, let's move on to number 6. Now, coming in at number 6, we have the Enforcer. Now, the Enforcer is absolutely nuts when it comes to orbital supply drops. Reason being because he deals a huge amount of damage to corrupted creatures. Now, don't ask me why, it's just the way that they were made, because they're sort of meant to fight the corruption, so it kind of makes sense. Now, these guys are kind of like glass cannons. I wouldn't recommend bringing them to the higher tiered supply drops, because like I said, they're glass cannons. They don't have a very large health pool, so their health pool doesn't really get that high, and you do want to be careful with them if you do plan on bringing them to the higher tiered supply drops. But you can still bring them there. I would just be very careful with using them, because they will deal the damage. They will, you know, be very helpful in fighting off whatever it is that is around in the area, but they are going to die very quickly if you're not careful, especially when you've got level 180 creatures coming down upon you. You're just going to need to be very careful. But other than that, the Enforcer is great as a mount to use for like the blues and the yellows even. I probably wouldn't go past the yellows solo. I would definitely bring a couple more dinos just to kind of tank while you sit on the Enforcer running around on him trying to deal damage in a hit and run style sort of thing. But yeah, the Enforcer is a great mount to use. Now obviously you can get the blueprints from them by killing them. You will struggle to find a 150 for a very long time, but you can use like 145s as well as the lower leveled ones, and they are just as effective. They just obviously don't hit as hard or have as much health. So guys, let's move on to number 5. Alrighty guys, now coming in at number 5, we have the Rock Drakes. Now, Rock Drakes are obviously not tameable, but are hatchable on Aberration, and these guys are pretty solid. They've got the fast movement speed, which allows them to pretty much cover most of the distance between the orbital drops. They can also hit wyverns up in the sky with their gliding ability. The only downside to these guys is that they don't hit too hard, and they don't really have the greatest amounts of health. You can obviously bump their health up to deal with such threats, but I mean, it's nothing really amazing. So you do have to be careful when you bring Rock Drakes to an orbital supply drop, but they still deserve a spot on this list, I feel like. They are rather durable, they do hit pretty hard. They obviously don't have a breath attack like the wyverns do, but they still are able to do the job and complete it. And as well as that, they can scout around the neighboring terrain in order to find any sort of missing dinos that are not coming to attack the orbital supply drop, which is really handy. And once again, if you do bring some mate boosted ones, you can obviously increase these guys' performance, I guess you could say, on them. So yeah guys, the Rock Drakes come in at number 5 on this list. Let's move on to number 4. Alrighty guys, and coming in at number 4, we have the Rex. The Rex is obviously a great addition to using these guys on orbital supply drops. You can get real high tier saddles for them, such as Ascendant, and they give you plenty of armor. As well as that, these guys hit like trucks. Now, mind you, these guys are not leveled up in any way, and they are also not mate boosted. So guys, if you do bring some mate boosted T-Rexes along to the battle with you, they will even hit harder, and they will take much more reduced damage. As well as that, you're going to be bringing quite a few of these guys because they are quite large and quite powerhousey, and your Trimates will be riding on them as well. These guys' health can get extremely high, up into the 40Ks if you breed them right, and their melee damage can easily get up into the 600s as well. Now, the only downside to bringing Rexes is that you've kind of got to be careful of the wyverns, because you don't really have the means in order to hit the wyverns. You can, however, pair this with a couple of other dinos that will be featured on this list in order to bring the wyverns down and take them out. So guys, let's move on to number 3 on the list. Now guys, coming in at number 3, we have the Reaper Kings. These guys are honestly one of the best tames you can bring for orbital supply drops. Main reason being because they take reduced damage because there are no sources of light creatures on extinction. Unless, of course, the corrupted dinos somehow manage to tame up their own light creatures. These guys are pretty damn tanky when it comes to it. You can see that they're only able to take really like 15 sort of damage from what we're getting hit by. As well as that, they do have ranged attacks which can slow down attackers. As well as that, they can ground wyverns as well. You can see there we've just managed to ground that wyvern with our tail attack, and this allows you to go in for the kill. So you can easily pair these guys with a couple other dinos that we've mentioned previously on the list, but I would heavily recommend bringing a couple of Reaper Kings to the orbital supply drop with you. You can see here we're only taking about 37 damage from this Paraceratherium, and like the Spino was not hitting for much either. So guys, definitely bring some Reaper Kings, but for now, let's move on to number 2. Now guys, coming in at number 2, we have the Giga. The Giga is a powerhouse of the Ark world, and he should definitely be brought to these orbital supply drops because of his huge stopping power as well as his large health pool. You can see here this bad boy's got 18k health, and they hit for about 400. Now mind you, these guys aren't level up. They are, however, perfect tames, so they were tamed out at 150, and these guys are pretty damn powerful when it comes to taking on orbital supply drops. Like all other dinosaurs on this list, you do kind of want to avoid them hitting the beacon. Otherwise, like I said, you can kiss your sweet loot goodbye. One thing you do need to watch out for with these guys though is their stamina, but you should definitely pump up their melee damage as well as their health in order to get the most out of your Giga. And you can see there, these guys are just managing to shred through most of the corrupted dinos in the area, which makes it a lot easier. Now, as once again, you do want to bring a couple of tribe members with you for the higher tiered orbital drops because it will make things a lot easier. I would probably say yellow is the max you could solo do. Red and purple, obviously, you're going to need a tribe. Purple is purple is just a whole other level. So guys, let's move on to number 1. Alrighty guys, and finally, coming in at number 1, we have none other than the mech. The mech is, hands down in my opinion, the best creature slash thing you can bring to orbital supply drops. They have a lot of health, they've got decent damage if you can get a blueprint for a high level one. As well as that, they can get the extra upgrades, for example, the force field as well as the cannon and stuff, which definitely does help in dealing with any enemy corrupted creatures that come into the fray. And you can see here, the damage that this guy pumps out is much more than some of the dinos that appeared on this list. So I would definitely recommend bringing a mech with you. Now, do take note that you should only be bringing mechs with you if you've actually got a tribe that can utilize a bunch of them, because by yourself, you're not really going to manage to do these high level red drops by yourself. You're going to need a couple of members from your tribe in order to do so. So do ensure that you bring a couple of tribe mates with you in order to complete these things, and it'll make doing it a lot easier. So make sure that you bring your mech and your tribe mates bring their mech, as well as the attachments that they can bring, such as the rockets, the cannon, and the force field. Definitely recommend bringing all of those, and try to avoid hitting the supply drop beacon itself. Otherwise, you can kiss your sweet loot. Adios. So guys, that's going to wrap up the video today. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know down in the comments below. As well as that, let me know if there's anything you'd like to add or change to the list. But other than that, guys, thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.